From Malé Airport, you guys are a good 40-45 minutes seaplane ride away.
Logistic plays a major role.
And I've always wondered that, these luxury properties, how do they keep running like clockwork so seamlessly? How are they getting all these stacks and crates of wine bottles and exotic food?
We have an amazing, talented team who look after that logistics. We know what exactly the season is, what kind of clientele are we going to expect.
How much does it take to run the resort every single day?
It would cost you nothing less than $50,000 to $70,000 a day to keep the resort operational.
How does one property differentiate itself from the other?
How green is the island? How natural is the island? How soft is the sand?
What's the most unusual item left behind by a guest?
So it was a newly married couple and
He left his wife behind. Vignesh, welcome to the Plush Podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Rahul. It's all my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Usually I like to dress up for the guests, but the guests were on my podcast. But in this case, I'm dressing down because we're going to be talking about remote, luxurious islands. And you've spent a lot of time in the Maldives. So I just decided I'll come in my cool, casual beach wear and have a nice chat with you.
That's the beauty of Maldives, right, Rahul? You be yourself, right?
Yes.
You are in Maldives, you got to relax yourself.
Yes.
So good to be like this, for sure.
Yeah. Maldives is for me, it's about no shoes, no news. I haven't fully followed that diktat, but still, Let's start off with your background first. You are running a luxury property in the Maldives and probably a few, but would love to know a little bit more about your background before we dive into some of the other questions.
All right. Thank you, Rahul. You're taking me 20 years back.
It doesn't show looking at you.
I've been not a hotelier, to be honest, throughout my career. My ambition was to be a pilot because my granddad used to be a first pilot from my community way back then, right?
But which community is that?
Okay. If you call the Gaundas, we are the farmers from Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
Right. From there, outgrown from
Gaundas.
Coimbatore. Kaundas, you call it, right?
Kaundas.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, being there, did my graduation schooling in Coimbatore, moved out for my graduation in Bangalore, and I had many twists, right? I would like to take challenges. So, when I graduated my whole management, I was there in UAE for good 2 years. I worked for 2 years. For what I studied, I was there in the hotel for 2 years. But then I realized, Rahul, when you party, I work. And when I would like to party, there's no one to party with me, right? So that's when I realized, okay, this is not my cup of tea, and I wanted to have a change. Thankfully, I had a good break with the aviation industry with two best airlines in the world, even now, Lufthansa and Emirates. I've worked with them for a good 15 years. And then that's when my life started getting bored.
You got bored again.
Exactly, yes. So, when you get bored, you want to relax yourself, think over it. Then I said, why not Maldives? And then it's good 7 years now in Maldives. Now I'm currently with Aitkens Spence Hotels in Maldives, looking after even the Sri Lanka, Oman.
Okay, so you've got experience on land, on air, and now in the water, right? So you're completing that holy trio.
Exactly, yes. Except for the fire, I'm happy doing all those things and happy to be in the water now.
You're not going to want to become a fireman soon, will you?
I need to respect them. They do a good job, no?
Yeah. Okay. So good to hear. It's been a really interesting journey for you, And
thank you.
You've got all this experience working, like you rightly said, with some of the top airlines and in the hospitality space as well. So I'm sure all those experiences really stack up and compound. So Vignesh, what does luxury mean to you now that you're in the Maldives? And for me, Maldives, of course, there are a lot of the local islands. But for me, the Maldives, and I've always wondered that, these luxury properties, how do they keep running like clockwork so seamlessly? And I've been to the Maldives a few times, considering that everything is close enough, but still far away. And that's got to be one hell of a challenge. So let's dive into what luxury means for you and how luxury is evolving for you.
Okay.
Since you see it from close quarters.
Right. So Rahul, luxury to me, it's just not about one task. It's about different elements, right? Uniqueness, privatization. It's the space what you have. How can you curate an experience, right? Now, no one would like to do something what is very generic,
Yes.
right? You would like to explore things. What more can you do about it?
Right.
And all those things in the background, we take care of it.
Right.
Right. You have been to Maldives few times, and you would not actually see what's happening in the background as such, right?
Right.
Behind the scene, there's a lot more things which we need to be prepared to welcome the guest.
Right. So let's begin with the logistics. How do you handle logistics? Because from Malé Airport, you guys are a good 40-45 minutes seaplane ride away, and from the food to the drinks to all the experiences, how do you handle the logistics of sourcing supplies, maintaining infrastructure, and also dealing with sometimes these unforeseen circumstances like weather disruptions, which can also happen?
Absolutely, yes.
How do you guys handle that?
So when it comes to logistics, Maldives as a destination is, though it's just like 40 minutes away from Sri Lanka, an hour away from India, Cochin. It is a critical part. Logistic plays a major role when it comes to Maldives. For example, Maldives is a tropical island, but you wouldn't even get coconut, no oranges.
You don't get coconuts?
No, not every island has coconuts. We actually ship quite a lot from India, from Sri Lanka as such. So that's something which one needs to be well prepared of, and we have an amazing, talented team who look after that logistics. And yes, we have been managing the show. Be prepared. We know what exactly the season is, what kind of clientele are we going to expect. Like for example, now it's Chinese New Year. So we are well prepared with the Chinese ingredients, like few weeks, if not few months back. We have already ordered and it's on the way. Right? So that is kind of a meticulous planning, I would say, the team looks after. And
so all these goods are flown into Malé, and are they further flown to the property, or are they sent by boat?
There are both the possibilities are up of course, yes. There are times when we ship things which is not perishable. There are times when we do it with the domestic airlines. There we have Velan is one of the international airport, but we have also certain domestic airports in Maldives.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes,
I thought it was just Malé Airport, and then it's a bunch of islands where you either take the boat or the ferry, or you take the seaplane.
No, we do have a couple more international airports as well, but then major tourism is concentrated in Malé as such. That's the Velana International Airport. But the shipment happens, like for example, there are resorts which is like further from our Heritance, for the matter, right? And it takes.
Heritance is one of your properties.
It is my 5-star luxury resort in Maldives. Yes.
Yes, I've been there. Yes.
Glad to know that. Glad to know that, and thank you. I hope you had a good experience, Rahul.
It was fantastic, and at the same time, it was a little frustrating for me because I'm a very curious person. So frustrating because I'm like, how are these guys doing it? How are they getting all these stacks and crates of wine bottles and the best liquor and exotic foods and exotic fruits? So fantastic experience, but it got me thinking, and that's when I was like, okay, I need a topic like this for my podcast for me to learn more.
You should probably have another trip to Heritance and relax yourself. Whether
I need 2 trips to enjoy.
I'm sure. Indeed.
Yeah. But let's go behind the scenes a bit, right? Because a lot of these luxury properties, they make the whole experience is very seamless. So give us an insight into what goes on behind the scenes at a luxury property to make it seamless for, let's say, someone like me. Seamless, effortless, and luxurious at the same time.
All right. So we have different set of clients, right, with different set of requirement, and your purpose will make us prepare ourselves to deliver what exactly your purpose of stay is, right? For example, if there is a special occasion, like let's say you're coming on a honeymoon, for instance.
Yes.
We need to be sure we allocate the best possible villa with the best of the privacies, right?
Yes.
One, we don't want your villa to be right next to the family villas.
Yes.
So that's a basic of basic which one do it, but then you not even realize it because we ensure that you have the privacy. Second most important thing when you are in Maldives, a spa is something which is like, everyone gets to do it,
Yes.
right? So we ensure that the spa timing is something which we provide, not during the early morning, like not at 11 o'clock, because probably you'd be out of the bed at 10ish, right? You don't want to get into the spa.
I would have had a hectic night if I'm on my honeymoon.
All right. Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So those are things which we always curate.
Yeah.
That's why we have butlers
Yeah.
to look after each and every guest. If not on the first day, on the second day we understand the guest much more, and then we try to deliver better than the first day experience.
Right. And another challenging aspect in the Maldives, especially in the Maldives, is that, to be honest with you, when the Maldives comes to your mind, you think of overwater villas and beaches and beautiful waters, right? But then how does one property differentiate itself from the other? Because they all look the same, and I keep wondering, as a business student, from a marketing perspective, how do you differentiate yourself from your competition? So what are some ways, in your opinion, a property can differentiate itself, and what should a consumer who's going to the Maldives look out for? These tiny little things perhaps which may not be very visible, because all those pictures look beautiful and they look very similar. So what should one look out for, and what do you guys do to market yourself differently?
You're totally right. If you ever happen to visit a resort on a day, let's say 3, 4, it actually every resort looks more or less the same.
The same.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's all over Instagram, right? We're seeing the same villas, we're seeing the same aquamarine waters, the blue azure waters rather, and one wonders, okay, now which one is this? Which property is this? Yeah.
So it's the fine touches which makes a lot of difference, Rahul. For example, you are in Maldives, you are in an island. You don't want to be dining in a particular restaurant, right? Or maybe a 1 or 2. You need to have a choice of restaurants. You need to indulge yourself in different cuisines or such.
Yeah, because you can't leave the island.
Unfortunately,
right?
yes.
For the most part.
For the most part, yes. Except for a couple of hours you want to do an excursion, yes. So you need to, first and foremost, you need to be very careful and choose a resort where you have multiple dining options.
Okay.
Right?
So that's one, multiple dining options.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
And this, if I have to just, that's a huge point, right? And if you have to talk about a small point, how green is the island? How natural is the island? Right? You're in Maldives to enjoy the marine life,
yes.
Enjoy the pristine beaches, right?
Yeah.
So we always believe as a group to have a natural island, and so you can always differentiate from the color of the water even, right? How different is a property from another natural island as such. So that's kind of a difference of what you can easily identify.
How does one identify which one is a natural island and which one isn't? Because all we're seeing is the villas and the water and maybe the diving. So how does one, as a layperson, differentiate, okay, this is a natural island and what's in it for me?
Certainly there is a lot, because if you're in Maldives, you would have to be a marine lover, right? If you don't want to really get into the water, at least the water has to be pretty enough that you can actually see through, right? The natural islands, when you see a lot of trees, lot of old coconut trees in specific, the sand, how soft is the sand, so that makes a big difference. And when you have a natural reef per se, you get to see turtles, you get to see such beautiful marine lives which you would ideally not find in a property which is close to Malé or a reclaimed island.
Okay, so thumb rule is if a property is close to Malé, then that's not as good as perhaps some of the islands that are a bit further away, right? So a seaplane is always better.
To an extent, yes. And there are resorts which is very close to Malé, and they have their own house reef.
Yes.
Those are the resorts you can still enjoy. But as far as you go away from the hustle bustles of Malé,
right,
you get to enjoy.
A little bit more remote, a little bit more pristine.
Absolutely, yes.
Untouched,
right. Yes,
virgin
indeed.
territory. Yeah, sort of. You briefly mentioned butlers, that your butlers play a huge role as well. Tell us a little bit about that, because not all luxury properties in the Maldives have butler service. So is that a key feature of your property and a key differentiator as well as far as luxury properties go?
Indeed, yes. I mean, like for example, you go to a hotel,
yes,
and then you need something. You take the phone, connect 0, dial 0, operator, blah, 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 right? But here you have butlers, who just a WhatsApp away and they're there for you. They would love to curate things. For example, you're on a honeymoon. You don't want to imagine your spouse asking, oh, Rahul, let me not go for spa at 4. Let me just change it to tomorrow at, let's say, 2 p.m. I mean, just a message to the butler, and then they get it revised itinerary for you.
Right.
Dining options, right? I mean, you wake up late and you want to have a breakfast in villa. That's possible actually in the 5-star luxury resorts.
Right.
And definitely in Heritance, we do it in the Ocean Suite. So just give a call to the butler and then they take care of it. It's hassle
So instead of, calling operator, calling, let's say, room service, this is a one-point contact who will bring you whatever you want and is available within 5 minutes for whatever you need. And often, it's a fairly large island, so you may need to, maybe you don't want to walk, maybe you want to just take the buggy, maybe you want to go play some tennis or go to the spa, and it's like a 15-minute walk and it's hot outside. Yes. So you've got the butler for things like that to plan your itinerary for the day, if you want to follow the itinerary, and B, also to kind of like ferry you around the island, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, that's one of the biggest point for Indian, I would say, because we don't like to walk, right? Okay, good morning walk, but then if it's a sunny day, it's certainly you don't want to get exposed to the sun.
Yes.
So butler is there for you wherever they are. I mean, they ensure that the buggy is there for you within like a couple of minutes.
Yes.
Max to max 5 minutes.
Right.
So again, that's a luxury touch, right?
No, and that is fantastic, because I can only imagine that a butler would be of huge help here,
Indeed.
when you have to go around the island and stuff. But so we've got butler, that's one, natural island, that's the second one, and there was another one that we covered.
The dining part.
The dining part, yeah. Make sure that there are multiple restaurants on the island.
Very true. Yes.
So these 2 or 3 things are a great differentiating factor. Are there any more, or are these the top 3?
This is the top 3 which comes to my mind, and probably another point from India perspective would be a nice spa.
A nice spa.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we love the spa. We Indians do love to get pampered. And when you're in Maldives, when you go for a dive, for example, and you want to relax yourself, a spa is something which is mandatory.
Most Indians are not very water friendly. In the sense, they may go snorkeling a little bit, but they're not divers, right?
Unfortunately, yeah, to an extent, yes, but the trend is actually changing, Rahul. I've seen many Indians in the age group of 20 to 30, even like clients who have come at the 30s, 40s, who come get themselves PADI certified.
Okay.
So the trend is definitely changing.
So it's not just honeymoons and family visits. You're actually seeing people wanting to come to a 5-star luxury resort like yours, wanting to become PADI certified, and that's like a 4 or 5 day process.
Absolutely, yes. And they have the different category, different level of graduation. That's
an open water diver, for example.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what better place? You have the best of the clarity of the water, right? So Maldives definitely stands out. Of course, it is slightly expensive to other destinations, but then you get the best experience in Maldives Ocean for sure.
Right. No, and look, I've been diving to a bunch of different places around the world, and I really enjoy the Maldives. The water's warm, so I don't need to wear that full wetsuit, which always helps. And I can sometimes not even wear a wetsuit. It's
you don't require. Yes.
Perfect weather, and some of the best marine life that I've seen. I've seen turtles and some of these different kinds of snappers, red snappers. I think the last time I saw a red snapper. And it's just fascinating. I mean, look, the marine life is very fascinating for me. And it's good to know that people are looking at adventure tourism as well and going beyond just honeymoons and family visits, So that's definitely good to know.
Yes, indeed, yes. And as we say, Maldives over water is only 1%. Rest of 99% is underwater. So if you haven't really, I mean, most of the Indians are not water friendly, but then when you actually dive, that is a different world, right? I'm sure you experienced the best of the dives.
Yes,
So there's a different world. So I always request our travel partners actually to educate the client. Okay, you may not be the best swimmer, but then go for a guided snorkeling, the least.
Yes.
You get to see at least like 20% of the marine life.
Yes.
So that's an experience one actually needs to explore when you're visiting in Maldives.
Right. You also mentioned your butlers plan the itinerary. Now, I would think people go to the Maldives to completely relax and get away from doing anything at all, right? No shoes, no news, like I mentioned earlier. But why would they need an itinerary? Or are there Indian customers or Indian clients who want some sort of like, maybe something to do? Maybe there's a cocktail workshop, maybe there's a cooking workshop. What are the trends that you're witnessing?
In fact, few years back, now of course Maldives is well known among the Indian guests. A few years back, people
I think
used to
COVID really did that, right?
Indeed, yes, indeed.
Yeah.
COVID did a lot of education to the clients, to the travel
And they
partners.
had nowhere else to go.
Unfortunate.
Yes.
I hope that doesn't come back. But then Maldives definitely scored the best possible across the world. We are
Yes.
one of the first leisure destination to open up in the world.
Yes.
And a lot of Indians went to Maldives. And first thing they used to ask me, oh, Vignesh, what do we do in Maldives? Ideally, you are there to do nothing.
Yes.
So-
Like my friend Pritish Shah, who runs a boutique luxury travel company, mentioned. He was on my podcast as well, and he mentioned that Indians have yet to learn the art of doing nothing. So while perhaps more sophisticated, experienced travelers can go there and just relax, like a lot of the Westerners do, perhaps, as you're saying, some of the Indian travelers, they want some sort of activity. It need not be hectic, but it could be a little sunset cruise or something like that, and they want these activities to kind of like pass their time, right? Because they're not always water friendly, and they want to make the most of stuff that they can see and experience.
Very true. When I say itinerary, it's not actually a long itinerary. So it's just about, you are going to a restaurant to dine at, let's say, at 1 o'clock, and you want to change the itinerary. You're changing the schedule of the
Okay,
dining.
so changing
So
the
those,
schedule of
of
your
course,
day.
it's not a big long itinerary. No, certainly no. And itinerary is an outdated thing in Maldives for sure.
Yes.
And there is no itinerary which exists. Of course, you rightly said there are a little bit of excursions, like you do a night fishing, you do a sunset cruise, you do a dolphin cruise. Those are a little bit of excursions one could indulge in,
Right.
but otherwise it's purely the luxury island, the dining options, the swimming pools,
Right.
right? You have kids activities and a lot more
Right.
happening, like the cookery show, the cocktail shows. So that keeps the clients actually engaged in such activities.
Right. And I'm also curious, when you plan some of these activities for the guests, let's say there's a special occasion, right? Maybe there's a proposal or something like that for a couple. How many staff members does it take to plan something fancy? I mean, simple yet fancy like that, and something so intimate and so memorable.
All right. So when this kind of a request comes, we feel like we should have like 100 people getting together to execute that kind of a requirement. Especially as a guest, as a travel partner, when they come up with the request, they need a whole lot of things. So first and foremost, like we need to tell them, okay, see, this is how the process is.
Because you have limited resources on the island.
Absolutely, yes. You can't just hire someone for an event in Maldives, right? Like how we do it in India. So we engage our housekeeping, to the front office, to the F&B, to the engineering. So good, like a dozen of team members would require to execute the simplest of simple event.
Also, where does most of your staff come from? Because I know some of them are probably from overseas, and I've met some from Sri Lanka and from India as well. But generally speaking, when you're recruiting staff, and in terms of maintaining quality as well, because the hospitality industry is very consumer facing, where are you recruiting your staff from? Are you recruiting them from like a local island as well?
So we do have quite a good portion of the colleagues from Maldives. If you say good, rest of the colleagues would be from India, Sri Lanka. We have colleagues from Japan, Russia. So we have close to 30 odd nationality in a property minimum, because that is the source markets of business which it comes from. So we definitely have someone, at least from the linguistic perspective, because
Yes.
not every Chinese would like to or would be comfortable to speak in English like most of the Indians are, right? So yes, we have a mix of nationality.
And China is a big market for you guys as well, right?
Indeed, yes.
Is India a bigger market or is China a bigger market?
India was a bigger market for good last 3 years, but we dropped numbers, and China is definitely up there in the top 2 now.
Really? I felt that when I first went to the Maldives in 2017 for my show Plush Places, I felt that there were a lot of Chinese people around, and I was like, okay, these guys have a lot of money to spend. It says a lot about their economy. But I would assume that during COVID, there were a lot more Indians who were going to the Maldives, because I think Chinese people weren't allowed to leave or something like that, right?
Yes, but I'm so proud, when COVID happened and resorts realized they need to have more villas with pool, because the Europeans and the Chinese would not go for the higher category. And Indians, everyone who wanted to be in Maldives, they wanted to have their private pool.
Okay.
Right? Let it be on the beach, let it be over water.
That's an interesting trend, that Europeans and the Chinese are going in for the lower category of villas, whereas the Indians are going in for the higher category of villas. I would think perhaps it's the other way around, because their economies are bigger than ours, generally speaking, from a per capita income perspective.
Agree. From that perspective, yes, you're right, Rahul. But then when it comes to the experience, right? Like we discussed, we are not very water person,
Yes.
right? So you would like to have
Happy
your
sticking around in the pool.
yes, at least to the most part of the time stay, yes.
Yeah.
But they would generally they explore a couple of times at least the beaches or the ocean as such. So yes, Indians would love to have a villa with pool for sure, and the Europeans would generally stay in the beach and they are happy to be on the beach having the sun bath.
Now let's get into some fun stats. I love stats. I love anecdotes.
I hope it's not about how much resort is making in a year profit.
Hey, feel free to share that. Yeah. How much does it take to run the resort every single day, including maybe the staff and the maintenance? How much does it cost?
All right. So
On an average.
it varies from resort to resort, the
Yes.
size of the resort, the number of employees. But on average, let's say on a luxury front, any resort would have a 90+ unit,
Yes.
a bare minimum of 5-star luxury. It would cost you nothing less than $50,000 to $70,000 a day to keep the resort operational. That includes your staff, your electricity,
So
every
close
bit of
to
it.
$2 million a month just to keep the lights on, essentially.
Yes,
Right.
because sadly, electricity, people don't really realize everything what you see, what the air condition is all about. It's all about it's all the generators which is pumping in the electricity. Yes,
Right.
there are resorts which is coming up with solar, but a long way to go.
Right. So okay, I'm going to take between $50,000 and $70,000. That's between 1.5
Yes.
to $2 million, give or take a little bit, give or take a little chunk of change.
Yes.
So that's what it costs to keep the operations running. Interesting. Okay, how many bottles of champagne or wine does a resort go through maybe in a week or maybe in a month?
Okay, we being a premium all-inclusive resort, right? We don't restrict the guest from the beverage consumption perspective. In fact, it's an interesting question, right, Rahul? Because at any given point, we have close to 400 to 500 bottles of wine at the disposal of the guest. For instance, in Ocean Suite, one of the highest category of villas, we have a wine cellar which is stacked with 16 bottles of wine for guest consumption. And if
Every
you
single
consider
day?
every single day,
And they can consume all 16,
and the second day we will replenish the 16 more.
and then they go diving.
All right, let's not get there.
Okay, so
So-
how many did you mention?
Close to, let's say, on a daily basis, let's say 250 to 300 bottles. On a monthly, let's close to 3.5 to 4,000 bottles of wine is what the consumption is.
So 4,000 bottles of wine is what people are consuming when they go to some of these luxury resorts, on an average, generally speaking. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What's the most unusual item left behind by a guest?
There are many actually, like how we leave spectacles and mobiles,
That's
the
not
aircraft,
unusual.
right?
That's not
unusual. If I had to think about it, this is a nice incident, right? So it was a newly married couple, and
He left his wife behind.
how he wishes, right? No. He actually left the wedding ring. And we found it. We let the guests know that we have it safe, and we are ready to courier it and ship it. But the women was very particular, very sentimental, saying that no one touches it except for the staff.
Yeah.
I don't want someone to courier it, someone to ship it. Rather, we will come back and take it.
Oh,
It was a great incident for us, and
very expensive honeymoon.
it
Then
was.
come
It
back.
turned out to be for sure, and they did come back after 6 months, and we had to be like very careful with the wedding ring.
Yeah, and hopefully they're still married, yeah?
I hope so.
Okay, what is the highest bill generated by a guest in a single day?
Even if you wake me out of my sleep and ask me, I will tell you it's $95,000
Okay.
for a good 5-night stay, and it's a family of 4.
This is outside of their what they've already paid for the staying. This
Yes.
is a separate bill that they had to
Separate bill, it was like good $45,000, which was the stay cost,
Okay.
and then additional was the rest.
settle.
So
Okay, what do they eat?
I mean, they had every possible experience, every possible spa. I mean, probably they had like a couple of spas in a day. They had the best of the best dives. They had the manta experience.
Okay.
So everything was exclusive. We curated in a such a way that they didn't even regret spending that much of money for sure. I can tell.
Right. So this is probably way up there in terms of extravagance. But has there been a very extravagant guest request that you've encountered?
It was like a week back actually. I mean, young couple, newly wed, and I actually rather guests insisted that they speak to the sales staff to the resort before even they made the payment to us.
Okay.
So the travel partner and I have to get on a call, and it was very unique because in my 7 years career I never came across with such a request, and the guests were pure vegetarian, which is fair. We cater to Jain, we cater to the vegans, and absolutely no qualms about it, right? But then this guest came up with a peculiar request saying that even the vessel, the ladle,
Has to be
new
new. Okay, not just separate. Okay.
and unwrapped in front of him and wash it.
Okay.
But then he was kind enough to give us like good 45 days, which we could procure things.
Right.
We could have, we ensured that the Indian chefs are on duty. We have 3 Indian chefs at the property. We ensured that the executive chef, the Indian chef, was on the property during the guest stay and catered to his needs.
I have heard similar stories for guests who are, strictly vegetarian, and they want to ensure that even the utensils that are used for cooking
Yes.
and the silverware, of course, is brand new and cooks completely separate in a separate kitchen. So I've heard instances where they've had to set up an alternate kitchen as well for some of these guests. But that's good to know that the Maldives is able to handle that.
We understand, Rahul. I mean, sometime back, probably Maldives didn't know what Jainism is all about, what vegetarian is about.
Yeah.
But we understand now. We have evolved over the years, right? Even, in fact, if there is a guest who's coming to my properties, and if they say, hey, look, Vignesh, I'm a Jain, are you okay? I say, like, you don't even have to mention to us.
Right.
Just go there, inform the chef, and you're looked after.
How do you procure a lot of these ingredients? Like, can you give me an example of maybe some exotic fruits, perhaps, or some special ingredients that are sourced from different parts of the world?
That's always a challenging part when it comes to Maldives, right? We go with the season of that particular country
Yeah.
and not Maldives as a per se.
Right.
So we do a lot of shipping from Sri Lanka, from India, even from Australia for the matter of fact,
Okay.
right? So we know exactly what kind of clientele we are going to have in what season. So we prepare ourselves to be sure, if not A is available, at least a B is available,
Sure.
right? So that kind of a planning is what our kitchen department takes care of.
Right. Okay, interesting. One last fun fact question.
Sure.
If someone had to do a complete buyout, which means book all the rooms in your resort, one of your luxury 5-star resorts, how much would that cost?
I was very close to doing one, but things couldn't really materialize, and we couldn't execute the buyout as such. But I'm sure I'm going to do one day or other. And the costing wise, let's say on a per day, if you look at close to $200,000,
Wow.
that's a minimum I'm looking at on a buyout. So over 4 nights, it's going to be
Between $800,000 to $1 million.
$1 million,
right?
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Again, it depends on the season where the guest would like to stay. If it's summer, of course, it's going to be much more what I quoted, and
Right.
if it's going to be peak season, it's going to be much more higher.
Before I end, and this question is something that I get a lot as well, and this is a trend that's only growing. Luxury travelers now are also very mindful of the sustainability factor.
Very,
right?
very.
So, what efforts and investments are properties on remote islands where you operate from? What investments are they making, and what efforts are they making to ensure that uh, they're practicing some of these? They're practicing sustainability beyond just maybe a bottle of water or whatever.
Uh, I mean, water is one thing which, like, we have really eradicated the plastic concept.
Okay.
So we have the glass bottles,
Okay.
right? A couple of years back, it wasn't the case. We
Yeah.
used to get bottle of water shipped. So imagine the amount of plastic
Too
which
much
was
plastic.
Totally. So that's one part which has been done. We are coming up with solar energies, right?
Okay.
To minimize the diesel consumption. That's one thing which is that's a huge cost to the resort one. And secondly, you have this beautiful source of free energy in Maldives, right?
Sure.
It's a sunny side of Maldives,
Yes.
right? So we try, and every resort literally coming up with a solar system as such, so wherein we can save the energy bit. So that's another bit. And food wastage, we try, because from our resort perspective, we have only one all-day fine dining restaurant, wherein it's buffet. Rest is all, it's fine dining, it's a la carte. So the wastage is actually reduced a lot from that perspective. So those are small things which we actually taken into consideration when even we design the menu, when we design the resort. So those are a lot of activities behind the scenes which we take care of it.
Okay, interesting. Good to know that a lot of these luxury properties are making consistent efforts towards sustainability, right? And this is just a trend that's growing,
Yes.
given climate change and all of that. But last question before we wrap up: what's your favorite part of working on such a remote island?
You get to be in an island, but the whole world is at your reach. I mean to say the guest, right? You have guests from different nations. At any given time, at least like 20 to 30 nationality of guests are there,
Right.
You get to experience their culture.
Yes.
When you actually bond with them over a coffee, over a drink, over a meal, you get to know a lot more things what the education doesn't teach you.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Travel is the best education.
Absolutely, yes.
And talking to people, of course, from different parts of the world and seeing what makes them tick, how they think, can be fantastic in terms of expanding your own horizons.
No cost can actually give that kind of an exposure and an experience.
Right.
So that actually makes everyone at the resort to go a long way. Right. And actually there are guests who come 30 times, 40 times back to the island just because their comfort, they know the island, they know the staff. So that's kind of, they become a family over a period of time.
Right. So you've had guests who keep coming back 30 or 40 times to the same property?
Yes, indeed. I've seen a guest who have come like 35 years to a particular resort.
Wow.
So yes, Maldives has that offering, right, which no other destination could actually even come close. Comparing a destination is not the right thing, but
Right.
Maldives is so unique
Right.
that you would not find that kind of an offering elsewhere.
Sure, of course. That's really, really good to know. That's it. I mean, in fact, I want to thank you for sharing your wonderful insights on how to run and what it takes to run a luxury, property on a remote island. It's been you definitely answered a lot of my questions, and thank you for taking the time out. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I've been to the Heritance Aarah, and I've had a wonderful time. And I think what stood out for me was the butler service. Yes, the all you can eat and drink menu.
Indeed.
The premium all inclusive package, right? Where there is no right side of the menu. You can just, and if you're going with friends and family,
Spot on.
Right?
There is no right side of the menu.
So
that's
you
a
can
beauty.
just eat and drink away to your heart's content, but be responsible, of course. And some wonderful diving, because I love scuba diving. I'm an advanced open water diver, so it was great to experience that as well. So I'm hoping I get a chance to go back at some point. or maybe experience some of your other properties as well.
It'll be lovely to have you, Rahul, and glad that you had a memorable experience. End of the day, it's all about memories, right? When you
Yes.
travel, when you experience a destination, it's the memories what you take along with you. So yes, and it's a pleasure to be here. In fact, and speaking about the destinations where I've spent 7 years and continue to do so. So pleasure is all mine.
We'll grab a cocktail next time I'm in the Maldives.
Certainly look forward.
Yes.
And let's go for a dive together.
Let's do that as well, for sure. Thank you
Look
so
forward.
much.
Thank you
Cheers.
so much. Cheers. Thank
Thanks.
you.